Can we just go back to international football instead? Because that was a deeply frustrating 90 minutes of football. Welcome back to the City Ramble. If you're new around here, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Hopefully you can cheer us up after Newcastle 2, Man City 1. Straight off the bat, an apology from us. We've been low on the video content over the last week or so. If you're watching back at the start of November, you'd have known that I was on a long trip, well, 2-week trip to Argentina, obviously back now, and unfortunately back in time to watch a Man City defeat. Let's get into the game then, because it was a weird game. City have obviously now lost 4 matches in the Premier League this season, and I think you can separate the 4 of them. Spurs and Brighton, I think City were bad. Performance levels not good enough. I don't think they were ready for the season to start, basically. Obviously, you can maybe say pre-season, Club World Cup, etc., etc. The Villa game, I thought was just a really bad day at the office. Like, no Nico Gonzalez for the best part. You know, just bad performances. It happens. The Newcastle one, I don't know if I can sit here and say that City played as a team, as a collective, played badly, because I genuinely don't think they did. I think on the most part, that was an all-right performance. There were some parts which were terrible, and we'll get into that. But I think as a performance, I think it was fine. There was just moments of frustration throughout of it. Some of those are out of City's control. How on earth Phil Foden doesn't get a penalty in that first half is astonishing. I tell you what, we'll get that out of the way because you couldn't do the video and not speak about it. But obviously, a lot of the talk has been, well, Phil Foden got his shot away. That isn't how it works. If you're saying that, I'm sorry, but you don't have an understanding about how the rule and how the laws of the game are applied. Because we saw it on several occasions, both in the first half and in the second half. That very same referee was giving fouls and free kicks after the ball had been played. If that happens in the middle of the park, that Phil Foden tackle happens in the middle of the park, it's a free kick, and it's probably, to be honest, a yellow card for the Newcastle player. So that argument just doesn't stand up. And I always say, for most decisions anyway, I can understand why on the pitch the officials, the referee might not have given it in real time. But when you look back and you've got VAR there, how on earth is somebody sat in a room on their own with a couple of video assistant referees? They're looking at that and they're saying, no, that's totally fine. It is absurd, absolutely bonkers. And it'll be interesting to see, actually, given the last week or so we've had of the inquest into that Liverpool goal, which was rightly disallowed, by the way. Anyone still saying that Van Dijk header should have stood, again, clueless. But the reaction that the wider football world gave to that. When will City be getting their apologies? When will City be getting the hour-long specials on the news programs and the podcasters and the YouTubers going? That for me is a 10 times worse decision. And look, maybe it changes something. Haaland could miss the penalty, for example, and then we're sat there going, well, it's pointless and Haaland's missed another penalty, whatever. But I think, you just look at that decision in isolation. It's horrendous. That doesn't excuse the fact in the first half City were just missing far too many chances. Haaland didn't really get into the game in that second half. Most of his stuff came in that first half, but I thought he's got to do so much better with those 2 chances in the first half. Specifically, in my opinion, the first one, because I think the second one, obviously, he does well to get something on it. For me personally, I think he's trying to be a little bit too cute. You just want to see him sort of thrash his leg at it, a little bit like the goal he scored, the volley he scored for Norway against Italy in the international break. That first one, though, he's 1v1 for all intents and purposes. I know it's a bouncing ball, he's got to try and control it, but he's 1v1 with Nick Pope. I've seen Haaland dribble past some of the best defenders in world football. I would fancy his chances to get 1v1 past the goalkeeper. Instead, it comes to him and he just sort of, flicks a leg at it and tries to, I don't actually know what he's doing now. I think if he had the chance again, he would probably do something differently. So that was frustrating. But, Phil Foden's chance, that's got to be a goal. There was a couple of others as well where you're thinking, you've just got to do better. And that carried on into the second half. At the opposite end, by the way, how on earth it was 0-0 at the half-time break, I have no idea. And it feels like, that first goal goes in for Newcastle in the second half. the goal scoring side of things really come to light, and yeah, because both teams missed chances that they probably should have been scoring. Certainly, I thought City should have had at least 2 or 3, and I think Newcastle probably could have had 2 goals. Donnarumma, fantastic saving from him yet again. That first goal arrives, and it's frustrating because it's just it's City backing off, and I've not had proper chance to go back and see who's to blame. Maybe nobody's to blame in general, but it just feels like City give the Newcastle players so much time. Great finish from Harvey Barnes, to be fair, sticks into the corner. But City get that slice of luck that I think for the most part of the game they'd been missing, because obviously referee decisions weren't going their way. The finishing was a bit poor. Even once or twice the crosses that were coming in were getting sniffed out by the defenders. I thought, is it Malik Chow, the defender for Newcastle? Thought he had a sensational game, by the way, to be fair. They get the slice of luck to go 1-1. Diaz, obviously deflection, but gets the goal. And you sat there thinking, right, okay, there's plenty of time here. Let's just keep it simple. But the defending for that second Newcastle goal is deeply unacceptable, and it's not the first time this season, whether it's led to a goal or not, it's not the first time this season that we've seen City really look lost at set pieces. And I think you can say the same in the opposite box, to be fair. City, I think, are the only team that haven't scored directly from a set piece so far this season, and it seems like there's issues defending them as well. So I don't know. They have so many chances to get the ball away, and instead it's just scrappy. And to be fair, Newcastle do well to keep it alive. I'm not going to lie though. To me, that looks like it's offside. And obviously we've seen the semi-automated decision. They're telling us it's fine. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, we can't trust it. It's this, that, the other. The angles we saw, I thought it was going to be given as offside. I was surprised it was that close. Possibly it is onside, and if so, that's fine, because I think City should have done much better. That it's not even in the same universe as the bad decision for the Foden penalty. The biggest frustration for me from this game, and look, it goes without saying, the man is the walking, living legend. Who are we to criticise him? Blah, blah, blah. But I thought the subs from Pep were bizarre, because it wasn't as if City in that sort of second half, even when Newcastle obviously went ahead to begin with, it wasn't like City was struggling to create chances. They actually looked like, when that first goal goes in for Newcastle, I'm there going, you know what, that's frustrating, but I back this team. I back the players on the pitch, Doku, Shirky, Foden, Haaland. I'm backing them to get back into this game somehow, create some chances of their own. And at this, to be fair, it was a killer blow when that second goal goes in. But I was still thinking the same. I was like, right, okay, that's annoying. That's really frustrating. But I see the changes coming on, and look, I at the start of the season was someone who was banging the drum for Savinho. I was saying, look, I thought he had a good first season, considering that he'd just come in, and in general the City team was an absolute mess last year. He looked pretty decent in that first season, got plenty of assists, obviously could have scored more goals. Obviously, if the money if there was a £70 million bid on the table from Spurs and you can guarantee a replacement, then that was a deal that I was saying all along, go and do. A couple of points there. Spurs didn't put forward an official bid, so it's all right saying, why didn't we accept, blah, blah, blah. But also, we don't know if even if they were prepared to bid, if City were able to get a replacement. That's that out of the way. What I need to speak about in the here and now is the fact that so far this season, Savinho's performances have just not been acceptable. It feels like that Tottenham saga, that transfer saga, has completely spun his head to a point where he's just, whenever he's coming off the bench, I've never felt, or at least I haven't felt for a long time, less confident in a player to make an impact, and that's not right. And look, I don't want to start a pile-on. Don't know what's going on, with him and football. It's a difficult business, but even still, there's just moments where I'm going, I don't know if you're applying yourself right here. There was a short corner. I think Tijani Reinders played it short to Savinho, and Savinho sort of laid it back off to him. And Savinho gave the ball away. It was entirely Savinho's fault. But he's there sort of berating Reinders, going sick at Reinders. And it's just that attitude that I'm like, mate, You're clearly in a moment, you're in a bad spot here. You give the ball away, even if you're not responsible. I want to see you busting a gut to get back and win it back and try and help this team out. The other changes, Reinders, don't think he was effective, but again, maybe it was Bernardo Silva's fatigue, flagging, whatever. Bob, I think we could maybe have, not in terms of attitude or application, but I think in terms of effectiveness, we could have a similar conversation about Bob. I thought the subs were really weird to be honest. I think if you're making a change in that situation, for me, it's bringing Omar Marmoush on. And I don't know who you would have replaced in that situation, but I think if you're looking at someone who can get a goal out of nothing, he was going to be the guy. Savinho, Oscar, Bob, what is it? Have any of them scored a goal this season? Off the top of my head, I can't think of one in the Premier League at least. So yeah, that was frustrating. Just a frustrating match. One of those matches where you sit down and the vibes are bad. I mean, we nearly conceded literally 40 seconds into the game when Donnarumma gives it away, and from that point on, you're going, oh, you're not getting the right vibes, and it felt like that was the case throughout the match. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit subscribe, make sure to leave a like. There'll be plenty more content on this channel. We'll have panel reviews, different sort of insights as well. It's a quick turnaround because it's by Leverkusen on Tuesday at the Etihad Stadium in the Champions League, which could be a good thing, to be fair. Hopefully shake off that defeat against Newcastle. Big picture, obviously this has been recorded before Arsenal play Spurs. Absolutely no confidence in Spurs doing anything of note or anything of use. So I'm expecting Arsenal to sort of stretch that gap out, which is annoying. Away from this game in general, I will say I still think City are very much pulling in the right direction. Like I said, this performance was much better than the Aston Villa game, which the Aston Villa performance was much better than the Spurs and the Brighton matches. But there is still that vulnerability, and you should expect it because it's a young team. And I think anybody feeling like this squad of players was going to go on, a 30-game unbeaten run and get a 10-point lead at the top of the Premier League table, that's just not how it works. Look at Arsenal, for example, how hard they're having. How difficult they're finding it really establishing a big lead when the rest of the competition isn't very consistent in itself. So it's frustrating. I don't know, I've not got a crystal ball. I don't know if this is the end of the title race. I've always said all along, City can win the Premier League title this season. What they will need to happen, though, is for the teams around them to also be inconsistent, because I don't see this team being, it's one of those, like, maybe in a year or two's time, City turn this defeat into a draw. And to be fair, I think City probably would have been, if that game ends a draw, I don't think anybody's complaining. But it's just that sort of learning to have that killer mentality, I think, will be the biggest task for City over the next couple of months. And there's some big matches coming up. Crystal Palace away. We know what they can do. Real Madrid away as well. Some big tests. I don't think it's a crash out. I don't think City fans should be crashing out. I think our heads, after we've shaken off the frustration of the referee decisions and missing all of those chances and, whatever, I think we should be, staying calm to a degree. But yeah, how on earth you don't give that as a penalty? If you've enjoyed the video, do subscribe, do leave a like, let us know your opinion. You can get involved in the City Ramble Discord. Link to that is in the description. We'll be back before you know it. Make sure to be sticking around. Until next time, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you later.